So I'm just getting out to a service call at a commercial site. Obviously you can see the tile is stained with water or moisture of some sort. It's been pretty rainy, so it might not be related, but realistically it's probably there's a 90% furnace above the T-bar in this general area. So I'm going to pop up the ceiling tile and kind of take a look at the unit and see what we got going on. So I just got up above the T-bar. This particular unit does have an air conditioning unit which has a drain pan underneath it, but this 90% furnace, you can see there's no drain pan underneath this 90% efficient furnace. Obviously the drain pan should have went underneath both, but it didn't. So kind of first saw a lot of the moisture is right around this OEM P-trap that Lennox has on their units. I can see a lot of water discoloration and staining, and basically the water dripped down on this track and went along the T-bar and kind of dispersed itself that way. So I just kind of started following things back. I didn't see anything that like stood out down here as far. Everything was pretty dry. I've seen these crack a lot. I'm sure people watching this video have ran into a ton of these that have cracked as well. So I kind of just traced it back, and I can see there was no water or condensation up here. So obviously with a higher efficient one, you have a lot of areas where condensation could come from if something breaks or leaks or heat exchanger goes out or anything like that. But I mean, I didn't see any like pulling up in any corners or anything like that. So I mean, that looked good. Obviously you can see I have a little bit of discoloration in like basically only 2 spots. So right here where the drains are tying in, I literally just like touched this, and as you can see, this thing is just completely snapped. I think it was half broke off, and there was like maybe a tiny chunk of it that was still holding it. But this is where my leak is coming from, so obviously the condensation is dripping down and just making a huge mess here. I'm going to write up for a new OEM P-trap on this particular unit. So I'll get this upper fitting right here, and then it actually comes with the P-trap down here. Always whenever you're doing this stuff, I always recommend bringing out, you know, whatever size PVC you have coming off of it, just bring out that size PVC. This is actually 1/2 inch coming off of this thing, which I don't normally stock 1/2 inch, so I have a ton of 3/4 inch, but not a lot of 1/2 inch, so I'll make sure I pick up some extra fittings when I go to pick up the new part to do the repair on this unit. Obviously at first I'm going to have to get everything approved, which I'm sure they're going to want to approve it, just because this is like the only system in this general area, so they're definitely going to be without heat for a little bit. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and put a note. We usually do little notes that I'll write up that I'll leave inside this unit just in case they decide not to do it, or we don't get approval and it stays unrepaired for a while, and then the next guy comes out here will know kind of pretty quickly what's going on with the system and why it was shut off. So I'm just going to shut it off just to prevent water. It's not super cold outside. If it was, I'd maybe try to jimmy rig some kind of temporary drain thing, maybe into a bucket or something, just to get them heat. But I mean, we're basically in like the 50s and 60s right now, so I'm not super concerned about that. I am going to also just kind of cycle the system, make sure everything cycles and I'm not running into any other issues on this particular unit. That way they can kind of decide if they want to go with a new unit or replace this unit. Looks like it's about 17 years old now, so I mean it is getting up there, so I'll just kind of make sure everything else looks good. If it's just the drain, I'll probably just do this new OEM P-trap and go from there. So I did cycle this unit in a call for heat. Everything else checked out pretty good, so honestly it's just this OEM P-trap. I'll obviously notify them of the age of the equipment, just you know, they're aware that this thing is getting towards the upper end of its life expectancy. But I mean, realistically, we'll probably just do the repair here and get them up and back online. So I'm just going to shut it off here. I have a power switch over here. I'm just going to shut it off, put the panels back on, throw a tag in the unit just saying what I did, and go ahead and get out of here and get on to the next call. I was just gonna add to it, if you are gonna replace like a ceiling grid tile for the people. I mean, we don't ever supply them, but if they have extra ones and stuff like that, we'll put them in for them once the repair is completely done. But until the repair is completely done and everything checks out, nothing's leaking, I mean, I highly obviously don't recommend putting one in until you know you're good. Just so you're not going through a bunch of ceiling tiles with water stains and stuff like that. If you like the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If there's anything you guys want to add, feel free to leave it down in the comments. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. All right, thanks, guys. And then for those who want it, I got the model and serial number here. Obviously, it's a Lennox unit. Model number is a GHR26Q4/5-100-8. Serial number is a 5803D47529. So I'll go ahead and talk to them and see what they want to do with this. All right, thanks, guys.